Welcome to the Book Odyssey. Okay, have you ever noticed how our ability to focus just seems to be, well, rapidly fading away in a world that's constantly pinging, buzzing, and vibrating? I mean, it usually starts the second we wake up, right? You grab the phone, maybe check a few messages just to clear the lock screen, and tell yourself, I'll get to focus in just a minute, right after I check this one email. But let's be honest with ourselves. That minute usually turns into a half hour of doom scrolling, and that promised state of true focus, it never actually arrives. Think about the paradox of our modern work life. Why is it that we often feel so incredibly busy throughout the entire day, racing from task to task, yet when evening rolls around, our tanks are completely empty and we feel like we've accomplished absolutely nothing of substance? The truth is, our modern distractions, those incredibly quick dopamine hits from our glowing screens, they're actively rewiring our brains. Our minds are getting so heavily accustomed to a fast, fragmented rhythm of information and instant feedback that it's becoming nearly impossible to sit still with a single complex thought for any meaningful length of time. Okay, let's dive into this. To combat this exact crisis, computer science professor Cal Newport introduces a really powerful framework in his work, and it's called deep work. He defines this as professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive capabilities to their absolute limit. Now, this rare, intense state of focus is what actually creates massive value in the world. It improves your skills in a profound way that is incredibly hard to replicate in today's increasingly automated economy. To truly grasp the power of this concept, we have to draw a sharp, uncompromising contrast between deep work and what Newport calls shallow work. Shallow work involves those non-cognitively demanding, logistical tasks that fill up so much of our time. We're talking about endlessly answering emails, attending rambling meetings that honestly could have been a memo, or constantly pinging callings on chat apps. These activities give us this very convincing illusion of being highly productive, but they're easily replicated and rarely create any substantial new value. Basically, they keep us treading water rather than actually swimming forward. The incredibly tricky part about all of this is that our brains are, biologically speaking, pretty lazy. They naturally choose the path of least resistance to feel busy without actually doing the hard, strenuous work. Throughout human evolution, saving energy was a vital survival mechanism. So today, when you're faced with a choice of tackling a difficult, cognitively demanding project or, say, just sorting and clearing out your email inbox, your brain naturally falls right into the trap of prioritizing that shallow work. It provides the immediate, easy gratification of feeling like you're accomplishing something without burning any heavy cognitive calories. So, this brings up a fascinating question. What actually happens when you give in to that biological urge and check an email for, let's say, just 30 seconds while you're right in the middle of a major project? I mean, it seems harmless, right? But this brings us to the hidden danger of multitasking and the incredibly destructive nature of those seemingly harmless momentary interruptions. The answer lies in a hidden danger called attention residue, which is a term coined by business professor Sophie Leroy. This phenomenon explains that when you switch from one task to another, even for a ridiculously quick glance at your inbox, your attention doesn't immediately follow you back to the main project. So the crucial point is, a literal residue of your attention remains stuck on that unresolved email. Because of this lingering cognitive lag, a simple 30-second distraction can completely destroy 20 minutes of focus. It leaves you staring at your main project with a fragmented, foggy mind, desperately trying to pick up the pieces of your thought process. A great, highly relatable example of overcoming this trap is the story of Jason Ben. He was working as a financial consultant, essentially operating as a human spreadsheet, doing shallow, easily automated work day in and day out. Realizing he was stuck in a dead-end loop, he quit his job and literally locked himself in a room with absolutely zero internet access, just textbooks, note cards, and a goal to learn computer coding. It was agonizing at first. His brain frantically craved the dopamine of distraction and screen time. But by completely eliminating electronic input, he slowly rewired his mind to focus deeply. He eventually mastered the complex skill and landed a highly lucrative tech job, proving that intense, isolated concentration can completely change your life's trajectory. But let's be completely realistic for a moment here. How can we actually build this kind of deep work into our chaotic modern lives? The vast majority of us cannot just quit our jobs, lock ourselves in a windowless room for 2 months, and hope for the best. We need actionable, practical ways to implement this level of focus into our daily routines without getting completely overwhelmed by our existing responsibilities. And this brilliantly illustrates why Newport outlines 4 distinct, highly flexible approaches to deep work scheduling.
Think of this as an engaging menu of options tailored to your lifestyle. First, you have the monastic philosophy, which involves total sweeping isolation to maximize depth. Next is the bimodal approach, which strictly divides your time into clear, deep retreats and open, accessible periods. Then there's the rhythmic approach, which turns deep work into a predictable, unshakable daily habit, like writing every morning at 6 a.m. And finally, the journalistic approach, which involves aggressively fitting deep work into whatever small gaps you can find in your busy schedule. The beauty here is that deep work is completely customizable, whether you're a totally isolated creative artist or a busy, heavily scheduled office worker.
Let's look at a legendary historical example, the famous psychiatrist Carl Jung. He brilliantly utilized the bimodal approach. He actually built a basic stone tower in the woods of Bellingen by hand, literally hauling and stacking stones to create a distraction-free sanctuary. He would retreat there to think deeply and write his groundbreaking works of psychology. Yet when he wasn't at the tower, he maintained his incredibly busy, highly social clinical practice and vibrant coffeehouse life back in bustling Zurich. It's a stark, incredible contrast, proving you don't have to permanently retreat from society to produce world-changing work. You just need dedicated, uninterrupted blocks of immense depth. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that no matter which schedule you choose from that menu, you absolutely cannot rely on willpower alone. Willpower is a finite resource, and it will inevitably fail us if we just rely on trying harder to concentrate when the notifications start chiming. Instead, we must build rigid, unshakable rituals around our work. You need to pick a specific location, set a firm time limit, establish strict rules for yourself, like absolutely no internet browsers open, and track your actual output. By meticulously building these routines, you drastically reduce the mental friction of getting started. It effectively trains your brain, much like Pavlov's dogs, to slip seamlessly and automatically into a highly focused state. But what happens to our minds when the workday is finally over? We've spent all this time talking about optimizing our focus during the day. But how we handle the end of the day is a perfect natural bridge to the critical importance of totally disconnecting to restore our depleted cognitive energy. If you just stop working at random without a concrete plan, you immediately fall victim to a psychological trap known as the Zeigarnik effect. This is the well-documented tendency of incomplete or unresolved tasks to completely dominate our attention and hijack our memory. Those unfinished emails, the unwritten reports, and those lingering projects, they will absolutely haunt your evening. They'll relentlessly drain your much-needed attention reserves while you're trying to relax with your family, ultimately leaving you exhausted and depleted for the next day's efforts. To actively combat this lingering stress, you need to implement a strict, non-negotiable shutdown ritual. Step 1. Review all your unresolved tasks so you know exactly where you stand. Step 2. Make a concrete, realistic plan for tomorrow so nothing slips through the cracks. Step 3. At a strict cutoff time, let's say exactly 5 p.m., declare completely out loud, "I am done with work." Now, declaring this out loud might feel a little bit silly at first, but it is incredibly powerful. It acts as a literal neurological switch, signaling to your brain that the day is handled and it's finally safe to disengage. This is exactly what allows your mind to fully recharge for the next day's deep work. Ultimately, everything we've discussed today boils down to one profound statement from Cal Newport. A deep life is a good life. Overcoming our inherently lazy brains to dive deep into our endeavors doesn't just make us more productive cogs in the modern information economy. It makes our lives profoundly meaningful and richly present. When you commit to deep work, you're not just busy, you're fully immersed in the moment, deploying your highest skills and creating things that truly undeniably matter. So, let's put all this theory into immediate practice. Your specific action step is to block out just 60 minutes of completely uninterrupted, deep focus for tomorrow. Break those deeply ingrained bad digital habits by attempting one single solitary hour of distraction-free work. Put the phone entirely in another room, close every single one of your email tabs, and tackle your most important project. It will probably feel quite uncomfortable at first. Your brain is going to fight you for that dopamine, but push through it. You'll be absolutely amazed at how incredibly solid, grounded, and accomplished you feel afterward. If you want to dive deeper into these incredibly powerful strategies, I highly recommend picking up a copy of Cal Newport's Deep Work to finally reclaim your focus. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I genuinely appreciate your time and attention in such a distracted world, and I am already looking forward to our next book review session right here on the Book Odyssey. Until then, I want to leave you with one final essential thought to ponder as you log off. What is the single biggest distraction keeping you from diving deep today?